Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Did any of you anticipate when we came to Tirupati that we would see such a beautiful temple? Such a beautiful temple. And did you know that not entirely, but almost completely this has been paid for through book distribution? There are many pious Vaishnavas in South India, and they also contributed, not to make that a zero, but largely through book distribution, and that's because the devotees here, the leaders in particular, have developed such nice relationships with the devotees in Tirumala that they have given them permission to have book stalls where the largest number of pilgrims visiting any temple in India come, and there they have Srila Prabhupada's books. And in very prominent places, so much important is it that they have shifts. Some go at this time to that time, some go the next time to the next time. They have shifts of several brahmacharis manning several tables, and they distribute volumes and volumes. To people who come to Tirupati literally from around the world, certainly all around India, but it's such an important place from all around the world. They're staying here, what a wonderful situation. Staying here in a holy dham, distributing books to people from all over the world who come to take darshan of Venkateswara. Beautiful temple. While we're doing what we're doing down here, there's something happening on the next floor and something happening on the next floor, and all the guest rooms, and it's a lot of management. Anyone who's been involved in management knows, whoa, that's every day. And then there's festivals. While we're down here doing what we're doing, Mother Irmala is up in the conference hall doing what she's doing, in addition to the gift shop and people doing what they're doing upstairs, and they stream of, like, this is a wonderful place with very wonderful devotees. I'm renewing my appreciation for Revati Raman Prabhu and his team of devotees who have done a fantastic job representing the Hare Krishna movement, Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, in this wonderful place, Tirupati. We're following on our Yatra the path that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed, not exactly chronologically for logistic reasons, but according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, the chronology of Lord Chaitanya's travel was that after leaving Rajamandri, he traveled to a few other places, had a little encounter with some Buddhists, wonderful Leela. They confronted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had discussions with them and defeated their philosophy. And they became very concerned. If this philosophy is so strong, it defeats our philosophy, we have to get rid of this person. So they had a very devious plan, feeding him that which would destroy him. Just as they were making the offering, a bird came and captured the metal plate, flew in the air, and dropped the plate on the head of the chief priest of the Brahmanas and knocked him unconscious. And the followers of the chief priest were pleading with Lord Chaitanya, please do something, save our master. So Mahaprabhu did. He brought him back to life, or brought him back to consciousness. And he became accepting of Lord Chaitanya. And that was just before his coming here to Tirupati, in the chronology of events. When the spiritual master of the Buddhists began to chant the holy name of Krishna and submitted to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people who were gathered there were astonished. Not just the Buddhists, but the chief priest of them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Shachi, then suddenly and strangely disappeared from everyone's sight. And it was impossible for anyone to find him. Like, poof. Just disappeared. And then 2 verses describing his next visit to Tirupati. Text 64 and 65, chapter 9 of Madhya Lila. Mahaprabhu Chali Aila Tirupati Trimale Chatur Bhuja Murti Deki Venkatadriye Chale. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at Tirupati and Trimala, where he saw a 4-handed deity. Then he proceeded toward Venkata Hill. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has actually described the chronological order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit. The Tirupati temple is sometimes called Tirupatura. It is situated on the northern side of Arkata in the district of Chandragiri. It is a famous holy place of pilgrimage. In pursuance of his name, Venkateswara, the 4-handed Lord Vishnu, the deity of Balaji, with his potencies named Shri and Bhu, is located on Venkata Hill, about 8 miles from Tirupati. This Venkateswara deity is the form of Lord Vishnu, and the place where he is situated is known as Venkata Kshetra. There are many temples in southern India, but this Balaji temple is especially opulent. A great fair is held there in the months of September and October. There is a railway station called Tirupati on the Southern Railway. We made our pilgrimage to that place. Nimna Tirupati is located in the valley of the Venkata Hill. There are several temples there also, which we will visit, among which are Govindaraj and the deity of Lord Ramachandra, one of the days, we're going to be, day after tomorrow, we're going to be visiting those 2 temples and 3 other temples. After arriving at Tirupati, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramachandra. He offered his prayers and obeisances before Ramachandra, the descendant of King Raghu. It then describes he went to see Pana Nrsimha, where we were yesterday, and after leaving Mangalagiri, it then describes he reaches Shivakanchi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the deity of Lord Shiva. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Shiva into Vaishnavas. Then Vishnu Kanchi, and saw Lakshmi Narayan deities. He offered his respects and many prayers to please them. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vishnu Kanchi for 2 days, he danced and performed Kirtan in ecstasy. When the people saw him, they were converted into devotees of Lord Krishna. After visiting Trimalaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Trikala Hasti. We're also going there. It was there he saw Lord Shiva and offered him all respects and obeisances. Purport. Trikalahasti is situated about 22 miles northeast of Tirupati. On its northern side, there is a river known as Suvarna Mukhi. The temple of Trikalahasti is located on the southern side of the river. The place is generally known as Sri Kalahasti or Kalahasti, and is famous for its temple of Lord Shiva. There he is called Vayulinga Shiva. But the main deity that brings pilgrims from all over, just as Srila Prabhupada said, is Balaji. Balaji, just a little preliminary, there's a very long, fascinating, elaborate, detailed history of this deity. And this deity is said to be a form of the Lord that appeared after, self-manifesting deity, that appeared after Srinivas, the Lord of Vaikuntha, descended for 2 purposes. One was fulfilling a promise, which you're going to hear the details of, fulfilling a promise to Vedavati during Ramchandra's pastimes, the false Sita that was kidnapped by Ravan. Many details we'll describe, that he would, in a future incarnation or future appearance in this world, would accept her as his wife. But in the Leela of Ramachandra, Ekapatni Vrata, so he would not accept her. So, question. This is a question that I had. If the appearance of Srinivas appears in Kali Yuga after Ramachandra, so Ramachandra in Treta Yuga, then Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, Srinivas appeared in Kali Yuga. And yet it's said that Ramachandra came and took darshan of the deity. So the answer is a previous Kali Yuga. This deity is very old. And the scriptural authority for this Venkateswara deity, or Srinivas, comes from Varaha Purana, the Balaji Mahatmya section, from Bhavishyotara Purana, and from the Prapanamrita, the writings of the Alvars that describe the glories of this deity. Many of you that were participating in the Puri Yatra will recall the discussion between Gopinath Acharya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Excuse me, Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya as to the nature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So very quickly then I want to read one verse from that section. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was super scholar, and very prominent at the time of Mahaprabhu's appearance was impersonalism. So he was very scholarly in impersonalism. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became revived, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya made arrangements for their prasadam because they had been traveling. So Jagannath Prasad was given to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of a sannyasi, said, just give me some dry vegetable and a little rice, I'll be happy. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, this is Jagannath Prasad, just take it. Whatever is brought, it's been offered to the Lord. So after taking prasad, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees came back. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, Namo, Namo, Namo Nama Narayanaya, meaning you're a sannyasi, so you're Narayan. Having taken sannyas from the world, you're now Narayan. Lord Chaitanya didn't refute, he just said, Krishna Matirastu. May you always remember Krishna. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had inquired from Gopinath Acharya, what order of sannyas is he in? And his name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya in the Bharati Sampradaya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, Sri Krishna is a very nice name, but Bharati Sampradaya is second class. If he likes, I can give him initiation into a higher order of sannyas. I have the mantras. I have the authority. I have the knowledge. I'm really good in all these rituals. And Gopinath Acharya and Mukunda Datta were very unhappy hearing this. And they said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya is known as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't need any higher order of sannyas. And the students of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, how can you establish you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You take up your position with logic and argument and see if it stands. And Gopinath Acharya said, by logic and argument, it's impossible to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not by that means. You will never understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by that means. Only by His mercy will it be possible. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, don't become so angry. We're just having friendly discussion. We're based on Shastra. You're a Brahmin, we're a Brahmin. We're having Brahminical discussion. And on the authority of Shastra, how can you say that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Because in this age, one of the names of the Lord is Tri-Yuga, because he doesn't appear in Kali Yuga. Therefore, that's one of his names. And he refers to a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, no less, that says the same thing. Here's the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is certainly a great, uncommon devotee. But we cannot accept him as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, because according to Shastra, there is no incarnation in the age of Kali. Another name for Lord Vishnu is Tri-Yuga, because there's no incarnation of Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga. Indeed, this is the verdict of revealed scripture. This is Madhya Lila 6, chapter, text 95, purport. The personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is known as Tri-Yuga, which means that he is manifest in 3 yugas. However, this means that in the age of Kali, the Lord appears not directly, but in disguise. This applies not only to Lord Chaitanya, but it applies to Venkateswara, as you'll hear from the Leela describing his life. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7, 9, 38, it says, "My Lord, you kill all the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations, in the families of men, animals, demigods, rishis, aquatics, and so on. Thus, you illuminate the worlds with transcendental knowledge. In the age of Kali, O Mahapurusha, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore, you are known as Tri-Yuga, one who appears in only 3 yugas." So there it is, confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. But Sridhar Swami, so the explanation is called Tri-Yuga because he appears not like the Lord, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as his own devotee. And we'll hear how Srinivas appears. Very fascinating Leela. Srila Sridhar Swami has also verified that Lord Vishnu appears in the age of Kali but does not act as he does in other ages. Lord Vishnu incarnates for 2 purposes: pritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chaduskritam. That is, he comes to engage in pastimes with his devotees and to annihilate the demons. These purposes are visible in Satya, Treta, and Dvapara yugas, but in Kali Yuga the Lord appears disguised. He does not directly kill the demons and give protection to the faithful, because the Lord is not directly perceived in Kali Yuga but is directly known. In the other 3 yugas his name is Tri-Yuga. So that's the way of Srinivas. Srinivas is understood by the Sri Vaishnavas as Krishna himself. Of course, their understanding of Krishna himself is a little different than our understanding of Krishna himself, because for Sri Vaishnavas, he is the Narayana, is the ultimate source, the absolute truth from which other incarnations come, etc., and everything else comes. That's the Siddhanta that they adhere to. And thus Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu or Narayana. But they take that Srinivasa is Krishna himself, indicated by the fact that part of the worship of Srinivasa is they offer Queen Kunti's prayers daily. Kunti praying. So, we can bear that in mind, how at least the distinction between how Gaudiya Vaishnavas and, or let's say, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was before the deity of Balaji, what was his mood of worship? Very similar to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood when he was before Lord Jagannath. He saw him as Krishna himself. And in our temples, in ISKCON, that have something that's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that in time, in our temples, as they become well established, Prabhupada wanted, at that time there wasn't, but to have Shalagram Shilas within the temple. And the nature of Shalagram Shila is that in the mood that you worship him, he reciprocates. So that means on the appearance day of Ramachandra, we can perform Abhishek of Shalagram Shila in the mood of Ramachandra accepting the Abhishek. Or on Nrsimha Chaturdasi, we can observe Nrsimha Chaturdasi by performing Abhishek of Shalagram Shila and so on, because Shalagram accepts according to the mood with which we approach him, just as Krishna does. And similarly, the prayers to Balaji of the Alvars, sometimes they pray to him as if he's Ramachandra, sometimes they pray to him as if he's Krishna, sometimes they pray to him as if he's Nrsimha. But some of their prayers, largely their prayers are within the Dasya rasa, in awe and reverence, as we were discussing yesterday at Mangalagiri. But some of the Alvars go outside of or beyond that into the Madhurya realm, and it's within the Sri Vaishnava tradition that they, in the mood of gopis, in the mood of Madhurya rasa, pray and engage in loving sentiments in exchange with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and revere in a most elevated way. That is the topmost form of loving expression. Quite similar to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. So that's just to give a little background on the deity form of the Lord that we're going to be observing while here in Tirupati, and the other temples surrounding that are ultimately related to Balaji. So this, what I'm about to describe, is a elaborate kind of a compilation of the Balaji Mahatmya portion of Varaha Purana and Bhavishyotara Purana, description of the appearance of Balaji, this self-manifesting deity. The narration begins, very similar to Srimad Bhagavatam, with an assembly of sages at Naimisharanya. And the sages had asked Sutta Goswami to describe the glories of Balaji. So Sutta Goswami responds by describing a visit that Narada once was making to his father. Who's the father of Narada? Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is the creator of this universe, or more specifically, the chief engineer, because ultimately everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But being the creator of this universe, he felt responsible for the outcome, the result of it. A similar description in the Lord's concern about creating Ekadasi. Because after Brahma's appeal to Lord Vishnu, I've made this creation according to your plan, but there's so much suffering of living entities in this world. He elaborately describes the kinds of suffering conditions, and it's too much, and I've taken responsibility for this creation. What can be done to relieve living entities of that suffering? So Lord Vishnu says, don't worry, there is this very special day, Ekadasi day, and souls can become relieved of their sins by observing Ekadasi in a proper manner. Very powerful day. Anyway, so powerful that sin personified went and complained. You've created me, now you've created this Ekadasi day that's so auspicious that I'm finished. So he was complaining. Said, don't worry. You sin personified, you can take shelter in beans and grains on Ekadasi day, and those that eat beans and grains on Ekadasi day will simply be eating sin. Oh, very good. So similarly, the Pitamaha, the father of all living beings, ultimately Krishna is the seed-giving father of all living entities, but as the original chief engineer and architect and creator of this universe, Lord Brahma, he's also the original Prajapati. Therefore, he's commonly addressed as Pitamaha. And he was concerned with his praja, with great anxiety over the suffering conditions that they'll have to endure within this creation that he's just taken full responsibility for. Just then, Narada came. And Lord Brahma addressed Narada, requesting him, you're my son, you're very intelligent, you're very, very capable. You consider a plan whereby the personality of Godhead himself can descend within this age of Kali in particular, most degraded of all of the four ages, where his presence can give relief to all living entities for their sinful reactions, to all of their misdeeds in this age of Kali. Narada's expert. Fortunately for us, Narada Muni's present. So, Narada went to a holy place on the bank of the river Saraswati, where sages were performing extended yajnas. And Narada came into their assembly. Devarshi Narada, he's the rishi amongst the devas. So they were honoring him. And Narada posed a question to them. He said, you all come from so many different practices. Some of you are yogis, some are ascetics, some are tapasvis, and many of you are doing so many different kinds of yajna, and all of these are to benefit and be offered unto the Supreme. But let me ask you, who is that Supreme who you can all agree upon and offer the results of all your wonderful activities unto that Supreme? And sure enough, they had a lot of different ideas about who is supreme. I think we've noticed it in the course of just this short yatra that we've had. So many different ideas of what's supreme. So, being inspired by Narada, the sages considered, yes, this is proper. Then we can have the best collective result. But how to discern who is supreme? In the course of their sage conference, their consultation amongst one another, they concluded one way to find out who is supreme is to evaluate. Now this, I'm taking something directly from Srila Prabhupada's writing in Krishna book on this topic, that one's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. I'll say it again, and probably one more time before we're done. One's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. Think about it. We're all subjected to provoking situations, without exception. Volume may differ, but we're all subjected to provoking situations. And in the course of our lives, more provoking, less provoking. When provoking situations arise, a great person remains undisturbed. Mind, just like we were hearing Ramananda Roy being glorified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Pradyumna Mishra. Here's a person, and in the most provoking, agitating of circumstances for the mind, his mind is like stone or wood. It's unchanging. So provoking doesn't necessarily mean like bad things. It can mean becoming attracted to something that looks like an object of enjoyment, and the mind doesn't change. Both happiness and distress. Isn't that a message in Bhagavad Gita? Again and again. One whose mind remains equipoised. Pebbles, stones, and gold are the same as far as external things. The greatness of a person has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. So the sages considered the way to test who is supreme is, we'll provoke Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu and see who exhibits the quality of tolerance the greatest. Yes, that's a very good idea. And then they requested different personalities. Will you do this? Gautama said, no way. And various sages and rishis said, it's a great plan, but I'm not going to be the one that does it. They finally settled on Bhrigu Muni, who didn't want to do it either. But they somehow convinced him. Bhrigu Muni became the most qualified person. So you've certainly heard this story before. It's in the Bhagavatam. Bhrigu Muni is the son, one of the sons, direct son of Lord Brahma. So he went to see his father. And his father had not seen Bhrigu in a long time. Oh, Bhrigu, nice to see you. What brings you here? So happy. And Bhrigu said nothing. He didn't even acknowledge Lord Brahma's presence. Lord Brahma became, this is insulting. He became very angry. The provoking situation of being disrespected, or even milder than disrespected, neglected. But neglect is a form of disrespect. A mental offense was made to Lord Brahma, and he became angry. Next, the brother of Bhrigu, also of the same father, Lord Brahma, he visited Lord Shiva. Shiva was very happy to see, oh brother, thank you for coming and spending time to come and see me. How wonderful. And Bhrigu began making a verbal offense, criticizing Lord Shiva. I'm reluctant to even say some of the things that he said. Speaking about his associates, and you smear your body with ashes, and you have this garland of human skulls, and ghosts and hobgoblins surrounding you. Hearing his brother speak this way, Lord Shiva became very angry. And Parvati, knowing how to calm her husband, my dear husband, he's your brother. He can speak like this because he's your brother, you can forgive him. And then Bhrigu went to Lord Vishnu. Mental offense, verbal offense, corporeal offense. Lord Vishnu was reclining and being massaged by the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, when Bhrigu Muni came before him. Before even Lord Vishnu could speak, Bhrigu came right up to Lord Vishnu and kicked him in the chest with his foot. Our deity in the New York temple, also Radha Govinda, as the deities are known here, the Utsav Murtis of Radha Krishna. On the chest of Krishna, left side, is the footprint of Bhrigu. That's the side he kicked him in. With his right foot, he kicked him in his left chest. And immediately when Lord Vishnu stood and, oh my dear Bhrigu Muni, I'm so sorry that I didn't receive you properly, and you must have hurt your foot. Let me massage your foot. My chest is very hard, and your foot is very soft. I'm so sorry that I've hurt your foot in some way. And Bhrigu Muni could understand, without question, amongst the three personalities, who was supreme. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur also narrates this Leela. It's a universally known Leela. And he says, don't make the offense, my dear reader, of thinking ill towards Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. Rather, being inspired by the personality of Godhead from within their heart, they behaved the way that they behaved so as to give honor to Lord Vishnu, whom they both worship. It was a gesture of showing respect to Lord Vishnu. It was a service unto him that they behaved the way that they behaved. He cautions his reader, so I caution you all also. Yay for Vishnu, boo for Brahma and Shiva. That's not good. So Bhrigu went back and informed the sages of what had transpired. And based on what had transpired, they all accepted. Lord Vishnu is supreme. We should offer our tapasya and our yajna and all of our austerities and all of our activities should be offered to Lord Vishnu. Narada's mission was now moving into the next phase. Remember what the mission was? Lord Brahma requested him, you're very intelligent. Consider some way in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear on earth in this age of Kali to relieve people of their sinful reactions and thus become purified and remember the Lord and be attracted to come back to the spiritual world for which this material world was created. So the next phase of Narada's plan unfolded. Because Narada knew the heart of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, felt terrible. I've witnessed this offense to my Lord, who is the Lord of my life, and I did nothing, said nothing. What a horrible action I've committed. She did nothing. But she was feeling, what a terrible offense. I need to leave this place and go to some remote, solitary place and undergo austerity to relieve myself of the reaction of this gross misdeed on my part. So a little purport, subtext here is, although we may not make a mental offense or verbal offense or corporeal offense, if we even witness such a thing, we become implicated. If you hear a Vaishnava vilifying another Vaishnava and do nothing, what's our teaching in Nectar Devotion? We must do something, otherwise we're implicated. One of the somethings that we can do is leave the place at once. Another thing that we can do, this is Nectar of Devotion, we can defeat the person by argument and reason. Another is we can take our life. We can't take our life because we're devotees. That would be another offense. You're taking the life of a devotee, namely yourself. You can't do that. But the indication is it's such a severe thing to hear vilification, criticism of a Vaishnava, what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must take some kind of action. I could give examples, but I won't go there. So, I'll give one example. When we were in Puri, this was mentioned. There's a group, a very right-wing group in Puri that wants to see that everything according to Skanda Purana is followed very strictly, and anybody does anything other than that, they get out a big hammer and hammer. So they were agitating. ISKCON, you don't hold Jagannath Rath Yatra according to Skanda Purana. It's either this day or that day, and you have it all times of the year. You have to stop this. So they sent a message to the India Bureau, the ISKCON India Bureau, like, you know, they're the managers, they're like the official legal entity that owns this place and all other ISKCON temples. And there's laws within India. It's a public charity. And, you know, they're the public. And, you know, they were agitating. So they, you know, they had to send a response. They sent a response that said that many things, without the details of what their response was. It wasn't satisfying to that group. So right in front of the Jagannath temple, they took a big picture of Prabhupada. In a protest, they burned the picture of Prabhupada. Did you know that? Right in front of the Jagannath temple, and it made the news. So ISKCON Bureau and the GBC, we wouldn't want the same feeling that Lakshmi had. They did this and we did nothing. We had to do something. Just as Vaishnavas, we had to do something. So, but you know, this is a hot group, and we have devotees that live in Puri and devotees that come to Puri, and we don't want to have, you know, physical attack and that kind of thing. So we have to have the right. So they made a response. without so many, they approached the king, and a suitable response was made as best as the situation permitted. So that's like, there's one example. And life is filled with examples. If you're hearing, quickly gesture in the direction of the internet. The internet there are places that are nothing but a cesspool. It's it's bad. My dear devotees, don't go to those places. Besides, it smells bad. It will implicate, it can destroy your spiritual life. Very seriously damage your spiritual life. Or if you have the misfortune of encountering a live person that's like that, be very careful. Because such people, that's their purpose in life, is destroying the faith of others. That's like their thing. Their worshipable deity is destroying faith of others, and they do that by vilification of others, left and right and left and right. Some are more subtle about it, but it amounts to the same thing. Be very careful. Even you may not be speaking those things, you hear those things. It can be very detrimental. Be very careful. So the goddess of fortune was feeling, I've made a terrible offense by witnessing and doing nothing. So she left the spiritual world and went searching for a suitable place where she could find to perform her tapasya. And she came here to a place called Kolhapur to do penances to relieve her from the reactions to the sin of observing this event of Bhrigu Muni. Lord Vishnu, just like Radha leaving the rasa dance. What's rasa dance without Radha? Even there's so many gopis. In the spiritual world there's countless goddesses of fortune. But Lakshmi leaving, he didn't want to remain without the goddess of fortune. And so he left, searching for her. The description is that he searched half of the earth, searching and searching. He's the Supreme Lord, so it's Leela. He's searching and searching. Couldn't find her. And so he came here to Sheshadri Hill, where he decided he would enter into a large anthill from the top and sit there and do his meditation and austerities in the mood of separation from the goddess of fortune. In this Puranic section, it describes why the name Sheshadri, or how it came to be. Long ago, Vayu desired to have audience of Lord Vishnu. And at that particular time, Jai and Vijay weren't there. But instead, Anantashesh was there. And he was guarding the gate, and Vayu was told by Adishesh, you have to wait here. I know that you're a very important person, but be very humble. And just meditate on the Supreme Lord, and he'll see you when he's ready. Vayu didn't want to wait. And so they got in some intense argument right at the gate of Vaikuntha. Sound familiar? The 4 Kumaras and Jai and Vijay. The omniscient Supreme Lord could understand, oh, we've got another problem at the gate. So he came and said to both of them, instead of quarreling, how about this? Why don't you have a competition to see who's stronger? And I'll propose a competition that you can have with one another to test one another's strength. Ananta Shesh, you can wrap yourself, your coils around the top of Mount Meru, or Ananta Parvat is another name. And Vayu, you can blow your wind as much as you can and see if you can loosen the grip of Ananta Shesh around Mount Parvat, Ananta Parvat. So, at the suggestion of the Supreme Lord, they forgot their quarrel and got instead involved in a competition, a contest. And Adishesh's coils were so tightly wrapped, as much as Vayu blew, and the winds of devastation for days, and Adishesh was tight. Vayu was becoming exhausted. And the demigods were, can't breathe. Adishesh, come on, give us a break. Just lose or something, because we can't breathe. He was hanging tight. Narada Muni came. The expert Narada Muni, playing upon his veena, singing wonderful songs glorifying the personality of Godhead. Adishesh relaxed. Vayu saw his chance. Under one of his hoods, this whole body of Adishesh went flying through the air and landed here. 7 hills. The land of Vaikuntha appeared. Thus, after that time known as Sheshadri, the hills of Ananta Shesh. His 7 hoods were manifest as 7 hills. And it was on top, appropriately, of the hoods of Ananta Shesh, or Sheshadri, that the Supreme Lord took shelter in an anthill under a tamarind tree. So these hills are accepted as non-different than Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha on earth. After the Lord left Vaikuntha, both Brahma and Shiva were there as dear devotees. They were very concerned. They wanted to serve the Lord. So they came to where Lakshmi was and consulted with Lakshmi. The Lord of Vaikuntha has left Vaikuntha because of the anxiety and separation from you. Can you help us to correct the situation? They had a proposal. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma accepted the form of a cow and a calf, respectively. And they requested Lakshmi to accept the form of a cowherd girl. The plan was to serve the Supreme Lord, who was within an anthill. That anthill was on top of a mountain that was the property of, at that time, the king of Narayanpur was the name of the kingdom. So the cowherd girl approached the king and said, "See this wonderful cow? See this extraordinary calf? They are very exceptional. If you wish, I'll sell them to you for 1,000 gold coins." The king considered. that's a steep price, but you say the cow gives the best milk. I accept. A comment, 2 comments from an ISKCON perspective. Prabhupada said when we distribute his books, we should request something for the books. Because if we just give the book, there may be occasions when we'll do that because we recognize they're very sincere, they just don't have the means. And if it's just they're very sincere, they don't have the means, we may gift them the book. Or some other personality, we may, like some government person, give them a book and then put it in ISKCON News. We gave Barack Obama Bhagavad Gita or something. But in general, for our book distribution, we request a donation. And the part of the reason for requesting a donation is that people that receive something free, they don't take it as seriously as if they make some sacrifice. An example of this goes back to the early days at 26 2nd Avenue. The devotees wanted to have a big program. I think they rented Carnegie Hall or one of those very expensive places, and to gather the funds to do that, it was very costly. Maybe it wasn't Carnegie Hall, some prominent place in Manhattan. And they made thousands of flyers and passed out the flyers to get many people to come. And they thought something else that will help is free feast. So free feast, free lecture, Carnegie Hall or whatever the venue was. And when it was time for the event, there was a handful of people in the hall. The devotees were crushed because they really had tried to do something very nice for Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada spoke, he spoke like the auditorium was filled with people and strong lecture and wonderful Kirtan, and he was radiantly happy. The devotees were very despondent. He said, next time, charge something. Because when you give something for free, people won't appreciate it in the same way as if they sacrifice. I have one other Prabhupada story. I was in Prabhupada's quarters at the Brooklyn Temple, 1975, I think it was, summer. And the temple president of Chicago at the time was Sri Govinda. Sri Govinda had come to visit Prabhupada with 2 specific purposes. One was to lodge a complaint. He had a complaint about the methodology of book distribution. Specifically, his complaint was one devotee in California, several devotees in California had adopted a strategy. They made like a green apple and a button, because Krishna book was contributed by George Harrison's $50,000 donation to print Krishna book. So by wearing the green apple, which was in the Krishna book, it looked like the Krishna book was Apple Productions, which at the time of the Beatles was like, whoa, Apple Productions. They didn't say, I'm from Apple Productions. They just wore a green button, or button with a green apple. So Sri Govinda's complaint was, it's misleading. People think that they're from Apple Productions presenting a book, and then they show the book and there's the green apple in the foreword, because George Harrison gave the $50,000 for the printing of the book, and that was done in honor of him. So Prabhupada asked, I was there in the room, and Prabhupada asked, in your country is this illegal? And the discussion was, no, Prabhupada, it's not illegal. He said, then what is the harm? He said, in business, they have a product that says, you take this cream, rub it on your bald head, and it grows hair. Buy our product. And that's business. they're not lying. They're not saying I'm from Apple Productions and they're not from Apple Productions. George Harrison is a popular personality and people they know that he's a Hare Krishna devotee and they're just wearing something that reminds them of, there's no harm. Sri Govinda was disappointed. He wanted Prabhupada to say the opposite, then he could go, That's not what he said. The second thing he wanted was that Prabhupada come to Chicago, and he said that I'll rent a large hall and make big advertising and to fill up the place. And Prabhupada said, and how much will you be charging for the tickets? And he said, well, we weren't going to charge anything for the tickets. And Prabhupada said, you must charge something for the tickets. And then he said, but Prabhupada, you've always said that a professional reciter of the Bhagavatam is not to be respected. That shouldn't be done reciting the Bhagavatam for one's maintenance. You've always spoken like that. And Prabhupada said, I'm not asking for my maintenance. I'm asking so that these people will take the message seriously. If you don't charge something, they won't take it seriously. Charge something. No, we're not Srila Prabhupada. We can't charge something for us to do ABC things. But it's a principle. So, because Lakshmi in the guise of a cowherd girl was charging 1,000 gold coins for a cow, the king thought, oh, it must be a very special cow. Yes. So he purchased the cow. And the cow and calf were given to the cowherd community who took care of the king's cows. And they were expecting the best milk to come from this cow. And every day at the time of milking, this cow was not yielding any milk. And so the queen, because she was a very capable assistant to her king, the husband, her king, the king, she was checking to see what's going on with the cowherd community over here. Is this cow producing nice milk? And the report was the cow is producing no milk at all. She said maybe the cowherd caring for this cow is stealing the milk and selling it in the market or taking it for his family because it's very special milk. So she confronted the cowherd. What are you doing? Are you stealing this milk for your family? No, I wouldn't do anything like that. I don't know any reason at all. But it's true, the cow is not giving milk. She said, if this cow, by the end of the day tomorrow, is not giving milk, off with your head. I promise I'm not taking the milk. I don't know why the cow is not giving milk. Because what was happening was, as was the plan of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they wanted to serve the Lord. So every day, underneath a tree, in the shady part of the tree, in the hot midday, the cowherd took a little nap. And as he was napping, the cow would go over to the anthill and drop all of her milk to give Abhishek and feed the Supreme Lord, make an offering to the Supreme Lord. So the day after the queen threatened the cowherdman, he lay under the same tree and kept one eye open, watching to see what the cow would do. And as the cow walked over to the anthill and began delivering her milk to nourish the Supreme Lord, aha! This is the reason my life is at risk. And he began running towards the cow with an axe in his hand, ready to chop the cow. And Srinivas emerged from the anthill and received the axe of the cowherdman right in his forehead to protect the cow. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hittaya Cha Jagat Hittaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. This is Krishna. He's the protector of the cows and the Brahmins. Right in his forehead. And his forehead began to bleed. And it was very painful. The cowherd, seeing from the anthill this person coming and the axe went in his forehead, he fell to the ground unconscious. What a horrible thing. News spread very quickly. The king personally came to see who was this person that just got hit in the head with an axe. What happened? I was just protecting the cow because the cowherd was going to come after him with an axe. And if you know some way to get this bleeding to stop and the pain to stop, please do that. So the king invoked Brihaspati to come, and Brihaspati said, I know exactly how to stop not only the bleeding but also the pain. On this very hill there's a very special herb, and he described the herb. So Srinivas, bleeding, in great pain, was looking for this herb. And as he was looking for the herb, he encountered Lord Varaha. Very intricate story. Lord Varaha had appeared there prior to Srinivas appearing there. Because Lord Varaha, during the rescue of the earth from the bottom of the Garbhadak ocean, when he lifted the earth after killing Hiranyaksha, the earth personified Bhumi, or Bhudevi, requested that the Lord stay with her and give his association to her for some time, and he agreed. He requested Garuda to bring one of his favorite hills from Vaikuntha so that Varaha and Bhudevi could associate together as in Vaikuntha. So Garuda brought one of those hills, and it was on top of one of those hills that Varaha and Bhudevi resided. So it was his hill. Varaha met Srinivas, seeing his bleeding, saying, how did this happen? And the description came. And he suggested there's this river, or this lake, Pushkarini Tirtha. By the way, we're going to see the temple of Bhu Varaha. You'll hear a bit more in a moment. The Pushkarini Tirtha is a very special place. It's part of the mountain that was brought by Garuda. After Srinivas explained what happened, Varaha indicated, I know exactly where the herb is, in this Pushkarini Tirtha. You take bath here, everything will be all right. Here's the herb. Srinivas requested, can you give me a place to stay? I understand that you own this tract of land. Can I rent a place from you since you own it? Because Lakshmi has left my side, I've come here. And because she's not with me, I don't know what I can offer to you for rent. I said, rent? No question of rent. No. this belongs to you. I want to set the example of how to act and respect the proprietorship of others. So give me a place that I can rent, but I don't have the proper price to offer. So Varaha said, all right, you have this sentiment. Then in the future, your deity form will be here, and when the persons come to take darshan of you, instruct that they should take darshan of me first. So when we go up on top of the hill, we'll have darshan of Bhuvaraha first. I was given a, whatever you call those things, an annual calendar, more than a calendar, it's a journal book for a year. And there's a very beautiful painting of Bhuvaraha. Not the deity, but a painting of Bhu. There are three internal potencies, Bhu, Shri, and Nila, that are all expansions of Lakshmi. So, Varaha then said, you can consider this anthill as yours, and that's your rent. And in addition, I have someone who can help apply new poultice to your forehead, these herbs, gather the herbs, and take care of all your needs. Her name is Bokula. She's like your mother. Take her like that. She's like your mother. Bakula was formerly Mother Jasoda, or an expansion of Mother Jasoda is Bakula Devi. And in the course of Krishna's pastimes, Vasudeva and Devaki had the opportunity to see that Krishna became married, 16,108 marriages. But Mother Yashoda did not have that satisfaction. And one of the satisfactions that parents have, the happinesses that they have, is making a nice arrangement for their son or their daughter to be properly married. They find happiness in that. And Mother Yashoda had no such happiness. So in her expansion as Bakula, she's going to find or fulfill that desire for happiness. So she served. Srinivas accepted Bakula's maternal service. And every day she changed the poultice. In fact, the deity of Srinivas has this mark, big mark on his forehead. To this day, it's commemorating or honoring that service of his receiving the axe of the cowherd to protect the cows, and the poultice that was then put on his head every day by Bakula Devi. Bakula Devi served Srinivas to her heart's content, like a perfect mother. So that part of the Leela of the Lord was very nice. But something was still missing, and that was his finding Lakshmi and being reunited with Lakshmi. So Narada's purpose had been partially fulfilled, the mission given to him by Lord Brahma, that the Lord of Vaikuntha would appear in this age of Kali, but so that the deity form of the Lord could be manifest, there is more to the Leela. So while Srinivas is meditating in the anthill, Bhuvaraha is giving Srinivas rent, and Bakula is serving him. There was a great king of the Chola dynasty of the name Sudharma. And Sudharma had two sons, Aksharaj and Tondaman. And Aksharaj married Dharani, Devi. Aksharaj and Dharani were wonderful offspring of Sudharma, their father. But as fate would have it, there was no child, no offspring. So they consulted the Brahmanas what to do. There's no children from our marriage. And the Brahmanas suggested, you perform a magnificent, very, very special yajna. We will assist you with that yajna. And from that yajna, following that yajna, you will have a child. So Aksharaj and Dharani were very happy to follow this plan. And as was the custom, the person who was the beneficiary, the sponsor of the yajna, would plow the yajna area 4 times around with a plow. And as he was plowing, just like as King Janak was plowing, as he was plowing, from the earth came a golden box. And he opened up the golden box, and inside the golden box was a golden lotus. And on top of the golden lotus was a young girl who just smiled at Aksharaj very happily. The child was shown to the Brahmanas, who said, see, just in your efforts to perform this yajna, just like Janak, you are blessed. We'll give her the name Padmavati, born of a Padma. And later, Aksharaj and Dharani also had a son. And the son's name was Vasudhan. And Padmavati was so qualified of a daughter that when she came of marriageable age, Aksharaj was very anxious to find a qualified husband. And there were many coming forward, stepping forward as possible candidates to marry this most beautiful, most qualified daughter of Aksharaj. But he didn't find anyone that was qualified. Narada Muni came in disguise as an old Brahmana who was expert in palmistry. He asked to see the hand of Padmavati. He saw the hand of Padmavati and told her, you are the goddess of fortune. And very soon, you will marry the personality of Godhead. You know how palmistry people say all kinds of things. Just a little bakshish, please. I'll flatter you to the sky. Padmavati didn't pay any attention. So one day, in the garden of Aksharaj, she, along with some of her friends, they were associating together and talking together and playing royal games together in the garden. From his anthill, Srinivas got an inspiration. His inspiration was, at that time, it was like jungle. Now it's not like well developed, but then it was literally jungle. And as a result of that jungle condition, there are lots of wild animals and dangerous circumstances. So he felt inspired. He told Bakula, I'd like to travel about here on the mountainside and see if the wild animals can be kept in a restricted condition. And Bakula said, no. You know, mothers say like that, no, it's too risky. Wild animals, it's so dangerous. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll be all right." Srinivas assumed the form of a hunter and mounted on a horse and was traveling about in the mountainsides, enjoying the panorama. And at one point he saw a huge elephant coming charging to the very garden of King Aksharaj where the girls were playing. And so he got in front of the elephant and chased the elephant away. Then he got down from his horse and he saw Padmavati. And that's his eternal consort, the expansion at least, of Lakshmi Devi, Padmavati. So it was, in the worldly terms, love at first sight. In transcendental terms, it's the Lord being reunited in a Leela with his own internal potency. So, I can't recall exactly the words that were exchanged, but Srinivas was very direct. He didn't beat around the bush. He asked who she was. "I'm the daughter of King Aksharaj in Dharani." "And who are you?" "My name is Srinivas. And I find you to be most attractive. My proposal is, why don't you become my wife?" And Padmavati blushed and said, "Well, this isn't the right way to do things. My father, King Aksharaj, he should be approached." But she was also very attracted. She just wanted to do things properly. At that moment, the girlfriends of Padmavati came, because they had scattered when the elephant came. They came back and they heard this discussion and chastised the hunter severely. "Who are you? How audacious of you to speak to Padmavati in this way. She's the daughter of the king and you're a hunter. Get out of here at once." And they picked up stones and started throwing stones at him and hitting him and pelting him with stones, and so many stones. And he got on his horse and ran away. When he came back to his anthill, Bakula said, "Look at you, what happened? You're bruised by all these stones. First the axe in the head, and now you're bruised by all these stones." Then Srinivas disclosed his identity, Padmavati's identity, and Bakula's identity in the following narration. He said, "Actually, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this Padmavati is actually Vedavati. Let me describe to you who Padmavati really is." There's a description from Ramayana where there was a sage named Kushadvaj. Kushadvaj in Treta Yuga was doing a very elaborate yajna. And from within the yajna itself, a form of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, appeared. Because she was born from the Vedas, she was called Vedavati. Vedavati is later going to become Padmavati. He understood Kushabdwaj understood, this isn't just like a daughter. This is the goddess of fortune. And when Vedavati was of age to become married, he knew there is no one that can marry her but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And so she gave her the following instruction. Go to the Himalayas, perform meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead for as long as it takes until he comes and accepts you as his consort. She's the goddess of fortune. She immediately accepted the advice of Kushabdwaj and she went into the Himalayas in a very remote and at times dangerous place. She was the goddess of fortune, so qualified, so beautiful, so attractive. There were many kings and brahmanas and very qualified persons that wanted to accept her as their wife. She declined. I'm only meant for Lord Narayan. Other than Lord Narayan, I'll give up my life before I'll accept anyone else. Ravana was one day flying overhead and he saw a beautiful maiden down in the Himalayas, and he came before her and was overwhelmed with lusty desire, and wasn't in disguise as a brahmana like with Sati or Sita, but he was just Ravana, like this, fabulously opulent king, and said to her, my dear young girl, what are you doing in a remote place like this undergoing austerities? You're obviously a grandfather is Pulastya Muni. We would make wonderful husband and wife. Immediately she rejected, said, I'm meant for Lord Narayan only. Ravana wasn't one to take no for an answer on anything, especially when it came to lusty affairs. He was reaching towards her to abduct her or forcibly force himself upon her. Because she's the goddess of fortune, she immediately invoked Agni, who appeared personified before her and Ravana, and spoke the following words. If ever you forcibly try to violate a woman again, before I give up my life, I'm giving you this stern warning. If you ever forcibly try to violate another woman, immediately you will instantly die. And a chaste woman like me in the future will bring about your utter destruction. She entered into the fire that Agni had created, and she was gone. It's the same Vedavati that entered into the fire of Agni that was the Maya Sita that Ravana kidnapped. We know this story from Chaitanya Charitamrita, for example, the Brahmana in the course of Lord Chaitanya's South Indian tour, where he met and had this practice of meditating upon Lord Ram. And he wouldn't eat because Sita had been abducted. And how can I eat? If Sita has been abducted, better I fast and give up my life. And Ramchandra said, no. It was a Maya Sita. See, not possible for Ravana to touch Sita. So please take your meal. And then later Ramchandra came back with the scripture that just confirmed. It was Maya Sita. It was that same Vedavati that Ravan abducted So there's Vedavati. She appeared as the the daughter of Kushadwaj, is meant for Lord Narayan only. Thousands of years of austerities, simply to have Lord Narayan as her husband. Ravana attempted to violate her. She gave up her life, gave up her body. Again appeared to be abducted by Ravan. And for so many years was tortured. Not so many years. For a whole year was tortured by the Rakshasis and Ravana and taunted and in the same mood of separation, in this case from Ram. And when Ram came and rescued Sita, killed Ravana, and came before Sita, he looked very grave. And everyone was wondering, why are you so grave? You finally have exonerated, freed Sita from the clutches of Ravan. He wanted to prove to the world her purity, so she entered into fire. The real Sita came out of the fire, and Vedavati was left without association of Ram. There's this description that says, Brahaspati pleaded, accept Vedavati as your wife also. Look at the trouble that she's gone through for you. At the hands of Ravana, protecting Sita. He said, no, not in this lifetime. I've taken this vow, one wife only, but in a future appearance in this world, I will accept her as my wife. So the same Vedavati has now been born as Padmavati, born on a lotus. This was disclosed by Srinivas to Bakula. I am the Supreme Lord and she is my consort. And she has been waiting for thousands of years with great trouble. And I've given my promise that I will marry her. And you are my expansion of my mother, Yashoda, and my form as Krishna. So can you help? Can you help make this marriage arrangement? Bakula was very happy to have that service. So you can go to the king, make the marriage proposal, and let's see if the king accepts. So Bakula went off to the palace of the king. When she reached the palace of the king, she saw all the maid servants of Padmavati in practically a mourning, distressed situation, so troubled. What's the problem? Padmavati, she has such a grave illness with a high fever. She may die at any moment and nobody knows what the problem is and what the cure is. We brought sages, we brought the best of physicians, and no one can do anything to make her condition better. Bakula said, I'll pray for her too. Meanwhile, back at the anthill, Srinivas is thinking, I may have to help my mother, Bakula, with this service. So he assumed not a hunter form, but this time a fortune teller form. And when he came into Narayanapur, he was declaring, I am a very qualified fortune teller, bring someone forward, and I can tell you exactly what their future will be. Everyone became very impressed with the seeming credentials of this fortune teller and seemed very prudent. That Padmavati's in this condition, what's her future? So they brought the fortune teller before the king, Aksharaj. Aksharaj requested the fortune teller, please tell us what's the circumstance of our daughter Padmavati. Is she going to live or die? He said, bring your daughter here. And paraphernalia for worship and yajna. When Padmavati came, her features were so beautiful. Very quickly, the fortune teller pronounced, your daughter's name is Padmavati, and she's not just your daughter. She's the goddess of fortune. And the goddess of fortune, as the goddess of fortune, she's feeling great pain and separation from her master, from her Lord and Master. She met that Lord and Master in your garden, who had disguised himself as a hunter. But the friends of Padmavati chased him away and threw stones at him, thinking him to be an ordinary person. This person is not an ordinary person. He's the personality of Godhead, and he's living on the same place within your kingdom. His name is Srinivas, and very soon a very majestic woman will come here and make an offering of marriage between your goddess of fortune daughter and Srinivas. That's my prediction for the future of your daughter. And King Aksharaj says, we've never heard this before. The personality of Godhead is living in my kingdom? How is this so? We certainly would have heard it. He consulted the Brahmanas. Is this so? The Brahmanas said, we don't know, but there's a great sage in your kingdom. Surely he'll know. His name is Shuka Maharshi. And Shuka Maharshi confirmed it's true. The personality of Godhead, Srinivas, is there. Just as Srinivas was leaving, Bakula came. When Bakula came, because she's Mother Jasoda, she's her culture and her presence, her immediately invoked respect from both Aksharaj and Dharani. Dharani received her very nicely. Said the fortune teller said some person would come and making a marriage proposal. Is that why you have come? She said, yes. I've come for the marriage proposal. Because Sukha Maharshi had already confirmed. She said, can you indicate where this personality of Godhead is residing in our kingdom? She said, yes, I know exactly where he is. Do you accept the offer of marriage for your daughter Padmavati and Srinivas? Said, yes, yes, we accept. So the details of the wedding are very extensive, and we don't have that much time. And I'm not like really fond of describing weddings anyways. Sorry, folks. Srinivas was very happy. So he requested Garuda and Adishesh to invite all the demigods to come and participate in his wedding with Padmavati. So all the demigods came to this very same place. Just like, did you notice, maybe you didn't mention, but at Mangalagiri the Didi Darshan closes at 4 o'clock. And the reason is, in the evening hours the demigods come and do the puja. So the demigods came to participate in Srinivas's marriage. And after some time, Srinivas looked unhappy. And Tondaman asked him, the brother of Padmavati asked him, "Why are you looking unhappy?" He said, "How are we going to have a proper wedding? The goddess of fortune is not with me. Lakshmi is gone. How am I going to take care of this expense?" Kuvera stepped forward, treasurer of the demigod, saying, "No problem. I'll take care of the whole thing." He said, No. I'll accept a loan. No. I want to show by example. You receive some money, I'll pay it back. And Lord Brahma, he can make the contract. So this is the personality of God as request. Lord Brahma made the contract with Kuvera. And the contract went till the end of Kali Yuga, where whatever is given to Srinivas goes to pay back the loan to Kuvera for his wedding, with interest and principal fully paid at the end of Kali Yuga. And thus, the deity is worshipped with great opulence, and much offering is made to help him relieve him of his debt to Kuvera. Again, before the wedding, after some passage of time, Srinivas was looking despondent. "Your wedding! You should be happy. What's wrong?" Padmavati knew. He's missing Lakshmi. He came to this earth to be with her. And she's not present. Srinivas said, "It's true. If you go to Kolhapur, you'll find Lakshmi. Please do that." Lakshmi consented, and she came. And Lakshmi and Parvati performed the bathing ceremony preceding the wedding. And Agni and Varuna were the head cooks. It must have been very good prasadam. Thousands of persons came, and everyone was fed very sumptuously and opulent event. Vayu took charge of serving the prasadam. And it's said in the Mahatmya that everything was offered at Ahovalam Nrsimha, not far from here, which we didn't go. Grand procession. Tondaman and Aksaraj were in the procession, and Dharani gave away the hand of Padmavati. An 11-day ceremony. Those of you that have been married, and sometimes the ceremony seems like it goes on forever. Some devotees I know have been involved in weddings that were 3 days long. 11-day wedding. After their marriage, they went to live at the former hermitage of Agastya Muni in the hills of Tirumala. After some time, this is now Vedavati has become Padmavati, and now they're married, as Ramchandra promised would happen. Things were going on very nicely until Padmavati noticed, "Srinivas, you seem unhappy." This is the Lord, who's Atmaram, is Salila. He's unhappy. "I know why you're unhappy. You appeared to be reunited with Lakshmi." He said, "Yes, that's true. That's my unhappiness. I would, Padmavati said, "Then just bring her here and we'll stay together. We'll all be happy together." He said, "I would like to bring her here, but I don't know if she'll come. She left Vaikuntha. How will I know she'll come here now? Padmavati gave some very interesting and wonderful advice. She said, it takes one to know one. There's this expression. She said, a woman is like a child. All they need is someone to show them affection and please them. Lakshmi will be pacified and happy to come back. I'm perfectly willing to go and make this request myself. But you can go, and if you show her that kindness, surely she'll come. Lakshmi knew that he was coming. So she left Kolhapur and descended into the lower regions where Lord Kapila was keeping his ashram. And there she continued with her austerities in Kapila's ashram. When Srinivas went to Kolhapur to pacify and appeal to Lakshmi to come and reside with him here, he couldn't find her anywhere. So he entered into a lotus flower stem and engaged in austerities. His austerities were so intense. Indra, not understanding that Srinivas was the personality of Godhead, was thinking, uh-oh, here's a great tapasvi who is trying to compete with me and maybe take over my kingdom. So he sent thousands of apsaras from the heavenly region to attract this yogi doing in tapasvi, doing his meditation. Srinivas expanded one apsara that was more beautiful than all the thousands of apsaras all put together. They were shamed. Not just that this apsara is so much more opulent, they understand this is the personality of Godhead. And they went back and informed Indra, this isn't just somebody doing tapasya and meditation. You've offended the personality of Godhead. Indra had another one of his uh-oh experiences. Uh-oh. Done it again. So he came personally to make amends with Srinivas. Srinivas said, don't worry. I'm not disturbed at all. In fact, you can keep the apsara for yourself. Just allow me to stay peacefully in meditation. His tapasya was so intense that there were flames and heat going all over the universe. This spiritual influence went all the way to the ashram of Kapila Dev, where Lakshmi was sensing his feelings of separation and his intense austerity. She asked Kapila, what should I do? Because I've made this big offense, and I don't feel that I've atoned sufficiently for that offense. Kapila's advice was, you judge a thing by its result. The result of what Bhrigu did is now the whole world knows Lord Vishnu is supreme, and has increased the respect and love and worship and devotional service to the Supreme by what Bhrigu did. I suggest that you go to Srinivas right away and end his tapasya and end his pangs of separation. So Lakshmi, from the lower regions, ascended. She entered into the stem of the lotus, and together Srinivas and Lakshmi were seated on this magnificent golden lotus. There they returned to the same place where Agastya Muni had done his tapasya before, where Padmavati was waiting, and Padmavati very happily received Lakshmi and Srinivas. Almost at the end, Srinivas then requested his brother-in-law, uncle, he requested Tondaman, please build a magnificent temple. And right before everyone's eyes, when the temple was finished, he manifested himself in his deity form. So to this day, in Kali Yuga, to fulfill the desire of Lord Brahma, that persons in this age of Kali who are so disturbed by the Kali Yuga circumstances and so troubled by the sinful reactions of their misdeeds, being influenced by the age of Kali, can come, as we have come, to Srinivasa's darshan and become relieved just by being in his presence, and become purified, and again attracted to the spiritual world and our eternal relationship of service with him. So this all happened in a previous Kali Yuga. And that's a long time ago. 4,320,000 years is the duration of the 4 Yuga cycles. Long time. We're going to hear how over a period of time, we've mentioned this several times and it's becoming very obvious how important it is to maintain standards that Prabhupada gave us. Over a period of time, that worship, the standards of that worship deteriorated. Ramanujacharya came here because according to scripture this is one of the self-manifested deities and such an important deity. When he came and saw the condition of the deity worship and the way in which the care of Srinivas was going on, he restored that worship to a proper standard. And to this day, generation after generation after generation following Ramanujacharya, that worship has been maintained very nicely. So in addition to being known as Srinivas, Venkateswara is another name of the deity. Vena, just like King Vena in the Bhagavatam, Vena means sins. And Kata means removes. So one who removes sins, Venkateswara, the Lord who removes sins from the hearts of his devotees. So tomorrow morning very early, special arrangements have been made for us to take darshan of Venkateswara. We'll first go to Bhu Varaha following the request of Srinivas, or following the request of Varaha to take care of his obligation for Srinivas's residence here. So we have at least now some idea of the glories of Srinivas as described by Sutta Goswami in the Puranas. I'm not sure of the details of how long the wait will be. I've been here before even with special arrangements, and it took 3 hours, but that's not uncommon. That's like the fast line. It can take 8 hours. On festival days, it can take more than a day. On big festivals, people are lined up for like days in advance. They sleep in the line and take their prasadam in the line and waiting for darshan. And the darshan is only like, and then you have to keep moving. one of the devotees speaking about Govindaji in Vrindavan, how merciful is Govindaji in Vrindavan, because it's not stand in line for hours and a boop, and then that's it, darshan, but for hundreds and thousands of persons at a time, that temple is set up in such a way that so many persons all at once can receive darshan, and for a long time, in the midst of a cacophony of glorification of songs by this group and that group, and prayers and singing, and it's a festival every Mangalarti before Govindaji. There's another mercy and mood, the anticipation. While you're standing in line, the anticipation is, I better be very attentive when I get that darshan. And it's very powerful. So, different mood, different form of the Lord. But he's Krishna, who is worshipped in this very unique and special way. Shri Venkateswara ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare